Zimbabwe's ruling party, ZANU-PF, finds itself in a state of unprecedented internal turmoil. The question dominating political discourse is no longer about opposition politics or national development. It is a question of succession and survival. Is Zimbabwe heading toward 2030 under President Emmerson Mnangagwa, or will Vice President Constantino Chiwenga take the reins? This dilemma stems from the unresolved tensions following the 2017 coup that ousted longtime leader Robert Mugabe. That coup, orchestrated by General Chiwenga, installed Mnangagwa as president under what many believed was a temporary arrangement. Fast forward to 2025, and the alliance has fractured into a bitter rivalry that threatens to destabilize both the ruling party and the country at large. ZANU-PF's dominance over Zimbabwe's political landscape has historically been maintained through a combination of propaganda, suppression of opposition, and strategic alliances. However, the party's aggressive dismantling of opposition forces, particularly the MDC and CCC, has left it without a common enemy. Instead, the spotlight has turned inward, exposing deep fractures within the party's leadership. The media, both state-controlled and private, is now saturated with stories of infighting between Mnangagwa and Chiwenga. The opposition has been sidelined, and the drama within ZANU-PF has become the central narrative of Zimbabwean politics. The dossier that shook the party. The current crisis escalated during a heated Politburo meeting in September 2025. Chiwenga presented a damning dossier accusing Mnangagwa's close allies, business tycoons Kudakwashe Tagwiri, Wicknell Chivayo, Scott Sakupwanya and Delish Ngwaya, of industrial-scale looting and capturing the party through corrupt patronage networks. These individuals, collectively dubbed the Zviganandas, have allegedly siphoned billions from state coffers through fraudulent tenders and political influence. Chiwenga demanded their arrest, arguing that their unchecked power threatens the party's credibility and the nation's stability. Mnangagwa, visibly angered, rejected the allegations and defended his allies, even referring to Ngwaya as "my friend." The confrontation nearly turned physical, with Mnangagwa storming out of State House and later convening a Politburo meeting to challenge Chiwenga's claims. The future of Zimbabwe hinges on two possible scenarios. Scenario 1. Mnangagwa abandons the 2030 agenda. If Mnangagwa agrees to step down after his constitutionally mandated second term ends in 2028, it would pave the way for a new leader, possibly Chiwenga or another candidate, to take over in 2027 in preparation for the next election. This scenario would likely delay the arrest of the Zviganandas, as their influence would remain intact until the new administration decides their fate. However, if Mnangagwa truly intends to retire, his allies may find themselves politically exposed and vulnerable. Yet, Mnangagwa's past statements suggest he is not easily persuaded. He once quipped that he would persuade the persuaders not to persuade him, a cryptic remark that many interpret as a refusal to relinquish power. His actions, reshuffling the Politburo, deploying loyalists in key security positions, and silencing dissent, indicate a man determined to stay in control. Scenario 2. Mnangagwa pushes ahead. With 2030, should Mnangagwa pursue a constitutional amendment to extend his rule to 2030, he risks a direct confrontation with Chiwenga's faction. This move would require a referendum, which ZANU-PF may struggle to win without resorting to electoral manipulation. Chiwenga's allies, many of whom have been purged or demoted, such as Obert Mampofu, remain influential behind the scenes. For example, General Godwin Matanga, though no longer in active service, still commands respect within the police force. If he were to issue directives, they would likely be followed, depending on the political climate. Mnangagwa's miscalculation lies in underestimating the resilience and reach of Chiwenga's network. The 2030 agenda is unpopular within many ZANU-PF structures, and the president's paranoia has led to increasingly erratic decisions. His refusal to fire Chiwenga, despite their open hostility, suggests he fears the consequences of such a move. The Politburo shake-up, a counterstrike. In response to Chiwenga's dossier, Mnangagwa reshuffled the Politburo in a bid to consolidate power. Obert Mpofu, a key Chiwenga ally, was demoted to a marginal role as secretary for ICT. Jacob Mudenda, a Mnangagwa loyalist, was appointed Secretary General, while Patrick Chinamasa took over as Treasurer General. Politburo on dossier. Justice Minister Ziambi was given oversight of legal affairs, further tightening Mnangagwa's grip on the party's administrative machinery. These moves were widely interpreted as a strategic effort to weaken Chiwenga's influence and neutralize his support base. Chiwenga's strategic errors. Despite his growing popularity and military backing, Chiwenga has made several critical missteps. Allowing Mnangagwa to assume power in 2017. After leading the coup, Chiwenga should have taken control himself. In most military takeovers, the coup leader assumes the presidency. By handing power to Mnangagwa, he inadvertently empowered a rival who would later purge his allies. Remaining silent. During the purges, as Mnangagwa systematically removed Chiwenga's comrades, the vice president failed to defend them or demand investigations into their deaths. This silence weakened his faction and emboldened Mnangagwa. Accepting the vice presidency. By stepping into a subordinate role, Chiwenga lost the strategic advantage of commanding the armed forces. Remaining as general would have preserved his influence and deterred Mnangagwa from consolidating power. The broader implications for Zimbabwe. The Mnangagwa-Chiwenga rivalry is more than a personal feud. It is a battle for the soul of ZANU-PF and the future of Zimbabwe. The party is no longer united by ideology or liberation history. It is fractured by greed, ambition, and competing visions of leadership. The 2030 agenda, driven by Mnangagwa's loyalists, is seen by many as a betrayal of the party's constitutional principles. Chiwenga's resistance, though rooted in factional interests, has struck a chord with those who fear the erosion of democratic norms. Political analysts warn that the escalating power struggle could destabilize the country. The spectre of another coup looms large, and the possibility of violent confrontations cannot be ruled out. A nation at a crossroads. Zimbabwe stands at a critical juncture. The ruling party, once a symbol of liberation, is now consumed by internal warfare. The opposition has been sidelined, and the media is fixated on the Mnangagwa-Chiwenga saga. Whether Mnangagwa steps down in 2028 or pushes for 2030, the outcome will shape the country's trajectory for years to come. If Chiwenga prevails, it could mark a return to military-backed governance. If Mnangagwa succeeds, it may entrench a system of patronage and corruption. For ordinary Zimbabweans, the stakes are high. The economy remains fragile, public trust in institutions is eroding, and the promise of democratic renewal feels increasingly distant. The coming months will be decisive. As ZANU-PF prepares for its annual conference in October, all eyes will be on the outcome of this power struggle. Will the party find a path to unity and reform, or will it implode under the weight of its own contradictions?